Okay. Welcome all. Hello, Keith, Judith, Dilly. Hang on. It's Duncan, Palden, Jeremy. Hello, Christine. Let's wait for the others to appear. Hello, Fene. Shrinamala. Right, here we go then. According to my notes, last time round we completed the Dhammapada, chapter 10, verse 1. Some of you may have spotted that I did manage to get a few more YouTube recordings of the Dhammapada up. I think we're up to, where are we now, verse 7 or something. So it was a big, whew, that'll take us well beyond the summer break. So we'll just share screen and then call up the go. So have I shared the wrong screen? Can you see the Dandavago up on the shared screen? Ah, I have shared the wrong screen, I think. All right, let me try again. I'll stop share and then start again. Has this one worked? Jolly good, thank you. So we have Sabbe Tasanti Dandassa Sabbe Bhayanti Machuno Attanam Upamankatva Nahanaya Nagahataye. So just briefly to recap the first line. Sabbe Tasanti Dandassa. Yes, welcome, Sanyu. All fear punishment, literally, all fear the stick. Sabbibhayanti machuno, and all fear death. These words, these verbs, tasanti, bhayanti, mean essentially the same thing. And tasanti in Sanskrit would be trasanti. It comes into Persian as to fear is tarsidan, the tars root. And in Latin, terreo and terror, English word terror. In early Latin, it was probably TERS. In fact, in Umbrian, a sister language of Latin, we did have a TRS root. That ters to the Nepali tas and Latin ter is all from that same origin. And as we've seen before, verbs of fearing commonly take the genitive. They can take others as well, but most commonly take the genitive, and that's why we have the genitive dandassa and machuno.
Is there any difference in the meaning of the two, James? Is there any subtle difference in the kind of fear or the intensity of fear or anything like that?
None that I've been able to detect. It may be that the tasanti is a slightly rarer verb, and we often find that the rarer verb sometimes has more of an effect. Hello, Mariano. I mean, for example, is there any real distinction between fear and terror in English? Simon.
Terror is slightly more intense, isn't it?
terror is more intense. Fear is a more general word. Terror suggests something more intense. Simon.
Wondering whether there might be a difference to do with objective and subjective. That bhaya originally, I think you said a few weeks ago, began meaning um, fear and then changed also to mean danger. So
That's right. Yes, it does. Yeah.
it may be that it's, death will happen. So it's real. It's a danger. Whereas
Hmm.
it may not happen. We just tremble at it. We fear it because it's not necessarily an objective certainty.
That's actually, yeah, that's quite a good point, though. Um, because Bhayanti Machuno, everyone knows that death will come. So it's a definite thing that will happen, whereas punishment might or might not come. And whether the actual person who wrote these verses was thinking as subtly as that. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I think we can hold in our minds. A nice point. And you're right, because the word bhaya, originally meaning fear, then came to mean danger, something properly to be feared. So yeah, but there could be some subtle difference there. Um, I mean, for example, I suspect that in a language like Italian, we have the paura is rather ordinary word meaning fear, whereas terrore is something stronger. Yeah. And the terror and the trembling and the terror, it's a more emotive word. So it could well be that the tars root or tras, sorry, talking Persian then, tras in Sanskrit, tas in Pali, tras in Persian, has the has a more intense meaning. But we're speculating at some distance here. I shall simply keep my eyes open to see whether I can discover any more about it. But yes, basically, I think a good point there, Simon. So on to the next verse then. Attanam upamang tattva nahanaya naghataye. So attanam is the accusative form of atta, which means it's the Sanskrit word atman, oneself. And upama, literally an up measuring, is an example. And so attanam katva, making oneself an upamam, making oneself an example. That means in measuring your actions, in deciding on your actions, as it were, measure the effect on the other person against the same action being done to you. It's like measuring one against the other. So if you don't like it, rather likely the other fellow won't like it either. Basically, that's what's being said here. Nahanaya nagahataye. I've done a note here on the possible distinction here. So the root han, Simon.
Sorry, just to return briefly to this upama bit. The meaning is really clear, and I'm just wondering which kind of syntactical route we use to get to it. On the one hand, upama can be an adjective, so kind of comparing to. So it could mean it's just an adjective agreeing with atanam. So it's having made those beings similar to the self, so that you're realizing that those beings that fear death, etc., are just like you. Or there's
Sorry, can you pause? I just do. I mean, I bridled slightly at your statement that upama was an adjective.
upama without the long R. So upamang.
Mhm. Oh, you see, from an entirely different root.
Yeah,
The upama as a noun, a feminine noun, is from upama.
but how do we know that it's a noun? That's the point I'm making. I mean, there are three possible things here. One of them is that it's simply an adjective that agrees with atanam, so that a comparison, so it would read something like having made these beings similar to the self. The second way of looking at it would be that upama is, as you say, a feminine noun in the accusative. So it would then read a comparison to oneself having made. And then it occurs to me also that atanam is also the genitive plural. So it could be a comparison of selves having made. So it all mean the same thing in terms of practicalities, but it's just how we arrive at it.
Okay, several things arise out of that. The first is that, Simon, I think you were at severe risk that if ever I have to drop out or can't turn up one day, I'll ask you to step in and be the teacher of the class in my absence. um,
I'm not struggling with an iPad.
struggling with my. Does your iPad work properly?
Don't even have one.
um, By the way, the genitive plural of attanam, so of atta is in Sanskrit atmanam, and in Sanskrit attanam, not attanam. It's the wrong R is the accusative singular only. Let me first of all just explain that one. Let me call up iPad. It should be here. Come on, iPad. Okay, is the iPad up now?
Yes.
Thank you. So going first to the Sanskrit, Atman. Remember, Atman is a masculine noun. Belongs within the broad consonantal declension, so the stem ends in an N. It makes its nominative in Atma. It makes its accusative in Atmanam, which is normal for masculine nouns of the N. So masculine nouns ending in an, stem an. So atma, atmanam, and the locative, for example, is atmani. So the atmanam, that long a appears in the accusative. So atman, atmanam, atmani. The plural, the genitive plural in Sanskrit is atmanam. So that long a appears only in the nominative and the accusative. And the Pali genitive plural would be attanam. So attanam is the genitive plural, attanam is the accusative singular. Yeah, I hadn't spotted the point. So that was really just giving myself a breather to digest Simon's point. I think you made a very good point there, Simon. So yeah, it could be construed in the way that Simon says, I think, because upama as an adjective meaning similar or equal to, attanam upamankatva, having made oneself like somebody else. In other words, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Yes, I'm going to allow that as a perfectly legitimate and valid alternative. And goodness me, I get so terrified when people say, "Oh, well, 5 weeks ago you said so and so." Jeremy, please.
Yes, I just wondered with Atanam as oneself, and I mean, given that one of the meanings, I mean, I looked in the the Pali Text Society dictionary. Obviously, one of the meanings is the soul,
Yes,
and this is very much something that was rejected by Buddhism.
indeed.
Uh, and so I was just trying to work out, would there be an alter? I mean, oneself here is what is it used as a demonstrative pronoun? And I was just trying to work out if there was an alternative to using atanam here.
Okay. Actually, you made a very good point. I was half thinking of it a moment ago. You've reminded me that I should make it. Thank you, Jeremy. So yeah, we have the Atman, which in Hindu philosophy you have the Paramatma, often sometimes translated as the oversoul. You have your Atman, which is a spark. I'm talking about Hinduism now. Your own Atman is like a spark of the Paramatma, the spark of the divine, often translated as the soul. And the Buddha did indeed proclaim the doctrine of anatta. There is no kind of this big permanent Atma that is one's real self. So that was, explicitly denied in the Buddhist doctrine. In a context such as this, Atman, or Atta in Pali, here we are, Attanam Upamam Katva, Atman has a very lowly status in a context like this. It is no more than the ordinary grammatical reflexive pronoun. So when a Buddhist text, you see something like Attanam Upamanga Katva. It means nothing more than making oneself an example or holding oneself to be like others. And even kind of washing yourself or hurting yourself, you hurt your Atmanam. So you have to see the atta, atma here used in two entirely different senses. One is in the Hindu philosophical sense, and the other is the mere humble reflexive pronoun.
Oh yes, I mean I see that the second meaning in the Pali text the dictionary they give that yes oneself, himself, yourself,
Yeah,
and say atanam in the accusative. That's the most common form as
that
well.
it is indeed. Yeah.
But as I said, I just wondered if there was an alternative. But I'm not sure. Is this oneself is what? Is that talking in the third person singular, presumably then? Or is
Actually, this oneself, I hurt myself would be, danam ahinsayam, and so it's used for all persons. And note in particular that themselves in the plural, they said to themselves, have to say, or any ourselves, yourselves, themselves, we'd use selves in the plural in English. Whereas in Pali, and the same applies in Sanskrit, when Atman or Atta is used as the reflexive pronoun, it's always in the singular, even though the actual people concerned are plural. So they hurt themselves would be Attanam ahinsayum, for example.
Mm.
But so I'll be right with you, Simon. So don't confuse that with the Hindu doctrine of the Atman, which was then negated with the Buddhist anatta.
Right? Yes. Yes.
So Simon, please come in.
Yeah, could you explain about the genitive plural again? I mean, I've just looked this up, and I've got for all three genders atanam with the long R.
In the accusative,
In the genitive plural of
it should be attanam.
I don't have that.
So can you tell me which book you're looking at?
one I've got is the little app that I sent you. I can't remember what it's called now. Muli.
Oh,
I can resend it to you, but I've got that. That's why I originally thought when I checked it out, I've got atanam in all three genders for the genitive plural.
so in Pali or Sanskrit?
I never touch Sanskrit. Don't go there. This is in the genitive singular. I've got atassa, plural in the masculine, atana and
Oh, sorry, yes. Okay, okay. Hang in there. Hang in. And I'll explain what's happened, though, as we're going slightly off piece here. What has happened is that we have parallel declensions of that word. So we have in Sanskrit, we have Atman, which declines in its own way according to Sanskrit grammar. Atman is Atma, Atmanam, Atmano, sorry, Atmane, Atmano, Atmana, Atmani, and so on. And in the plural, it has Atmanam. That's the regular way of declining nouns ending in an un stem. Pali does the same, but it also transposes that noun into the regular declension. So it declines in both ways in Pali.
so
So you can get attanam or attanam, depending whether you're following the consonantal declension or the vowel declension.
So is there anything that rules out the genitive plural atanam? Because then it could mean having made a comparison of selves.
I think what rules that out here is that we've got singular verbs at the end, or having atanam. Because if it's the reflexive pronoun, it's always used in the singular.
If it could be plural in the sense you're comparing the selves of the person who's being spoken to, so to speak, and those beings who fear the stick and fear death.
I think you're stretching it a bit here, because here you're stretching it beyond the reflexive pronoun meaning. If it's the reflexive pronoun, it always refers to the subject of that same verb. You know, making yourself an example, feeding yourself, looking after yourself. It's reflexive. It's back to that same verb. If you're talking about other people here, making an example of selves, it just would look so alien to Pali to be expressing it in that way. You just use peresam, others. But it would just look, I mean, I take your point. Linguistically, yes, it would just about work, but it would just sound so weird in Pali to be expressing it in that way. Linguistically, yes, if you just isolate the words, it would work. But I think it would just sound weird in Pali. Attanam upamang katva, having made the example of selves.
Well, upama also comparison.
Having made a comparison, attanam upamang katva, having lined up a whole lot of selves and making a comparison between them. Yeah, if you were looking at it in isolation, word by word, you could just about make it work.
If we're comparing ourselves plural, wouldn't the verb at the end have to be in the plural as well to make
And
sense?
so again, Palda, I didn't catch.
If we were treating it as the plural, so we were making a comparison of ourselves, it would be a bit odd. It would be a bit odd to have the verb in the singular at the end, though, wouldn't it? If we were making a comparison of ourselves, we should rather than I should, or one should, surely.
Yeah, okay, but there you use the as a reflexive pronoun. It's used in the singular, not the plural.
Oh, yeah.
So can you just remind me, Simon, that app that you used, I'm going to have to ask you to send it to me again so I can store it properly. A couple of things got jiggled around and lost.
I can't remember what it's called. I've got it open now. Oh, yeah, it's Mula. I'll resend it to you.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, is that Sanskrit or Pali or both?
Just Pali. If there's
Just
any,
Pali.
I haven't looked at it. I think it's just Pali.
Okay. Yes, I do remember it. Okay, if you can send it again, I'll see if I can delve in it any more. I'm fairly sure that athanam here is simply the reflexive pronoun, and it's the accusative singular, that we cannot rule out Simon's alternative interpretation of making an example of selves, but it would be kind of alien to the Pali way of expressing things. Making oneself at Dhanam Katva is entirely, it's a familiar and normal way of expressing it in Pali. But I think, in fact, you very, very rarely see atta used in the plural in Pali at all. It's used primarily just to deny the doctrine, the Hindu doctrine, and also, as I said, just for the reflexive pronoun when it appears in the singular. Okay, any more torments for me, Simon, before we pass on? It keeps me on my toes, goodness me. Thank you for the contribution, seriously. That was actually quite helpful. It shows how you.
Instance of kshanti.
Sorry, say again.
An instance of kshanti, the opportunity of developing kshanti.
It was an opportunity to develop shanti, because I misheard you to start with saying shanti, so it's the opposite of shanti, more kshanti, yes. Okay, then, so athanam upamankatva, however we are to construe that, and we certainly, whichever, I think that my original way is probably right, making an example of oneself, or effectively meaning putting oneself in the same position as the proposed object of your act. Nahanaya, one
James,
should not kill. So yes.
could I ask Simon just to put the name of that app in chat so we can all have a look at it? If you could do that, Simon, that would be great. Just put it in chat.
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely lovely. I find it indispensable now. I've got used to it. I can't really, it's probably a great big long kind of URL or something. So I think the best thing to do is if I send it to James, he can send it out in his little emails that he does every week. But I'll send
yeah, that would be best. In my regular weekly email, I'll just attach that link.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Simon.
Thank you, Simon.
So nahanaya, that's just the regular optative with an unexpressed subject, means one should not. Nahanaya naghataye. And again, I've done a note that hanaya is just the ordinary optative from the root han, to kill, and the ghataye, ghateti, it's either means to, its normal meaning would be as the causative form. In other words, to get somebody else to do the dirty work for you. But it can mean to put to death, particularly in Sanskrit. I tend to think here it's simply the pure causative form. Do not do the harm yourself, and don't get anyone else to do it for you. You cannot escape the consequences of your acts by getting somebody else to do it for you. Simon.
Sorry, I promise I'll shut up after this one. Just asking whether there is some kind of a rule about when you have aye on the end of the optative, because I remember nivaraye. Is that to do with it just being a class 10 or a causative?
It's I think that's probably to do with it being, well, a class 10 verb, because you have otherwise ghatayeya. If I saw ghatayeya, it would be ghataye I would expect to see more commonly than ghatayeya, because ghatayeya, I would say, is a little bit clumsy, but it would still be correct. So e and aya are both in Sanskrit it will just be et, bhavet, ghatayet, hanyet. This would be allowed, but I tend to think that the ghataye just sounds better than ghatayeya.
Is that universal for class 10s or just for a few?
I hadn't got churaye, ghataye, hannere, desaye, desaye. I don't actually know the answer to that question. Let me just revisit that.
A couple of weeks ago, we had nivaraye, which
Yeah, Nivaraye, yes, which of course is another class 10 one. So the IA ought, and just making note for class 10. Means you can go for decades looking at these things without actually. Normally, I do succeed in spotting the patterns, but you can fail to spot it.
right, you won't hear another peep out of me until next week now.
You are allowed, Simon, if you do keep me on my toes. No, you are allowed to, which is very helpful. Yeah, so the moral here is that by getting somebody else to do your dirty work for you is you bear the same moral consequence. Don't know whether you remember from your law studies long ago, Jeremy, there was a case of somebody who got an 8-year-old below the age of criminal responsibility to climb into the window of a dwelling house and there steal valuable objects. And his plea, oh, it wasn't me that did it, it was that 8-year-old. It didn't work. It didn't work. Who does by another does by himself. Okay, so there we are. I think well, I was about to say we've exhausted the plot. I'm sure we're very far from having exhausted all of the possibilities of this verse. But if there are any more questions or comments, we can deal with them now, and then wind this one up with the recitations. Right. Anyway, ask questions at any time, and we can start with Keith. You are first on my gallery.
I don't know how that happens so often.
Maybe it's because I wonder why it does happen, because if everyone's waiting at the same time to come in, I hadn't noticed that, but it's true. It does often happen, doesn't it? It just
It does seem to.
it's the way it comes up. Anyway, here we are.
Okay, carry on. Sabbe tasanti dandasa, sabbe bayante machuno, atanang opamang katwa, nahaneya nagataye.
Right. I may have misheard, but I thought I detected a slight zs and tasanti. Remember tasanti.
Tasanti.
Tasanti. Remember the s in Sanskrit and Pali never gets pronounced as a z. So it just always it's a s. In fact, the sound z just doesn't exist at all in Sanskrit and Pali. So otherwise, that's fine. Good. And then Judith, you are next, please.
Okay. Sabe tasante dandasa sabe bayante matuno atanam upamam kat na hanaya na gataye.
Okay, but did you the B's came out as singles there? Remember, good emphasis. Sabbe tasanti
Sabe, oh
danda.
yes, sabe tasante.
Even more than that. Sabbe.
Sabe tasante.
Excellent. So could you just
Dandasa.
read that first line again with special emphasis on the doubled consonant?
Sabe tasante dandasa sabe bayante machuno.
Okay, that was much better. And of course for the ch as well, machuno.
Machuno.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Judith. So Dilly, we're round to you.
Thank you. Sabbe tasanti dandassa, sabbe bhayanti machuno, attanam upamam katva, nahaneya nagataye.
Yeah, very nice. Now, just can you just or what script you're looking at? Can you just do this pada again? Attanam upamam katva.
Attanam upamam katva.
Right. There's a feature here that you will notice. I've mentioned this before. It's a feature that is peculiar to Pali but would not be allowed in Sanskrit. Here we have attanam with the anuswara, that's the subdotted M, and the anuswara, you see that's the dot above the nung there, highlighted.
It should be attanam.
Well, it is, but it's followed by a vowel. Now, normally in Sanskrit, we have a word ending in an M followed by a consonant, then that's written as the anuswara.
Yeah.
Where you have a word ending in an M, I'm talking about Sanskrit now, followed by a vowel, it's just pronounced and written as an ordinary M, and it follows straight into the vowel. So, and that's how it's normally done in Pali prose. If this were Sanskrit, it would be Atma Namupamam, not Atma Nam Upamam. Atma Namu Amu Atma Namupamam Katwa. And that's how it normally would be in Pali, whereas Pali permits, even though a vowel follows, this U follows, it permits the anuswara. And there's an important difference, or important in recitation, is that when it's written as the anuswara, it's a heavy syllable. Atman, sorry, it's said in Pali. Attanam upamam, not attanamupamam. Attanam upamam. And the importance of that is if you're chanting in unison. So remember, that is a feature of Pali, but not of Sanskrit. And so when you see this anuswara followed by a vowel, remember you've got to make it a heavy syllable. Attanam upamam.
Yeah, ng.
With the sound. Again, there's some little bits of variation around the Theravada world, how it's pronounced, but here, I mean, some people pronounce Attanam Upamang Katva, but in Sri Lanka, would you pronounce it Attanam Upamang Katva?
Yeah. If I didn't see this, and if I saw it in Sinhalese, it should have been Attanang upamang katva.
Attanam Upamang Katva. Okay, right, yeah, fine. Good, thank you very much for that, Lily.
Thank you.
Palden, we're on to you.
Sabbe tasante dandasa, sabbe bayanti machuno, attanang upamam katva, nahaneya nagataye.
Could you just read that first line again?
Sabbe tasanti dandasa. Sabbe bayanti machuno.
Okay, that was very good. That was more accurate than the first one. So just repeat them carefully after me. Sabbe tasanti dandasa. Sabbe bayanti machuno.
Sabbe tasanti dandasa. Sabbe bayanti machuno.
I don't know whether, thank you, Pali. I don't know whether any of you spotted that having just heard Dilly, I slipped into the Sinhala way of doing it. So this word dandasta in northern India, more of a short as dandasa, but in Sinhala dandasa with an rather than a sound. Both are equally good. And it's impossible to know how it was pronounced in northern India at the time. Both will be regarded as equally correct. It's just this final really short sound is a specifically Sinhala way of doing it, as we will hear in a moment from Shrinamala after Christine has recited. Please, Christine, come in.
Here we go. Sabbe tasante gandasa. Sabbe pahayanti machuno. Atanam upamam katva nahaneya na dataye.
Okay, right. Can you just say Upamankatwa again?
Upamam katva.
Right. I think what you've done, you've seen the M there, and you're pronouncing it as a bit of an M, like this ordinary English M. But what happens here with the Anuswara, it's followed by a P. And so it takes on, it's pronounced from the same position as the Gazu. Upamankatwa, Upamankatwa.
Upamam katva.
No, I can see you're still doing an M. Upamankatwa.
Upaman katva. Upaman katva.
Oh, that came out as a bit of an N there. It's exactly the same as the English, in, just IN, and then if we put a K on the end and make it ink, we automatically pronounce that N as a ink. The same phenomenon occurs between the Anuswara and the following K or G sound, Upamankatwad, automatically takes the position of the following, Upamankatwa.
Upaman katva.
That's a lot better. Okay, thank you, Christine. Shrinamala, round to you.
Yes, sir. Sabbe tassansi daddas sabbe bayanti machino attanang upamankatva nahaneya nagataye.
That was so lovely. I'm going to ask you to do it again, Shrinamala. Oh, listen particularly well to when Dilly and Shrinamala do it.
Sabbe tassanti dandas sabbe bayanti machino attanang upamankatva nahaneya nagataye.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shrinamala. But Mariano, please, come in.
Here we go.
Here we go. Avanti, maestro, as they say.
No maestro, no. Sabbe tassanti dandassa, sabbe bhayanti machuno, attanang upamang katva, nahaneya nagataye.
Okay, very nice. Just say this pada again. Attanang upamang katva.
Attanang upamang katva.
Excellent. That was perfect. Good. Thank you. Simon, we're on to you.
Sabbe tasanti dandasa bhayanti machuno attanang upamang katva nahaneya nagataye.
Right. That was very good. There are a couple of things that I've noticed several of you have done. I didn't pick it up at the time. Some of you have pronounced it with a slight rasping, nahaneya. In fact, the h in Sanskrit, and as far as we know, Pali, is pronounced as a kind of voiced H, not quite like the English h, and certainly not like a rasping h sound as the Greeks might pronounce it, but it's like a voiced. And the way we know that from Sanskrit is because it behaves in sandhi and other things like a voiced consonant rather than unvoiced consonant. So it's a bit alien for us for native English speakers to pronounce it as a voiced H, but that was how it was done. Haneya, Haneya. But it's not important. Everyone will understand you perfectly. I don't think the Thais managed to voice it. Srinimala, and then I'll ask you in a moment as well, Lily. Can you just say Haneya according to your singular pronunciation?
Haneya.
Say again?
Haneya.
Okay, I think that was unvoiced. How would you say it, Dilly?
Haneya.
Say again?
Haneya.
Right, okay. So there was no rasping there. It was just on the cusp of being voiced or unvoiced. Again, it's not a very important point, but just something I observe. But avoid the rasping. If you can't make it a voice consonant, at least pronounce it either the way that Dilly or Srinimala did, or like the ordinary English h sound. Okay, Sanyu, may we have your recitation, please?
Sabbe dasanti dandasa sabbe bhayanti metuno attanam upamam katwa na haneya na ghataye.
Okay, wonderful. I noticed you took special care there because you good Burmese, like us English, we don't have the b and the g sounds. So, I noticed you took special care to pronounce the aspiration. You also, I note, paid special attention to my earlier advice that if you find it difficult to pronounce it as a natural sound, and of course that we know that it's not a natural sound in Burmese or English, it's better to err on the side of overemphasizing the h, which is what you did, Sanyu, so you don't confuse it. If you say, Bayanti or Gataye, these are words which the native Pali speaker would say, well, hang on, those words don't exist. It's ba ga. Okay, so that was very good. Thank you, Sanyu. So, Jeremy, we're on to you.
Sabbe tasanti dandasa, sabbe bayanti machuno, atanang upamang katwa na haneya na gataye.
Now, Jeremy, okay. That was all fine, but for our native English difficulty with the aspirate voiced consonants, the ba, ga. So it's natural for us to find those difficult. But can you now do the same as Sanyu did, facing the same difficulty as you, because it's not a native sound in Burmese either? Slightly emphasize the h, even to the point of overemphasizing bhayanti, ghataye.
So that's the H following the B and the H following the G.
That's right. It's where I'm highlighting there, bhayanti and ghataye.
Yeah. Sabbe tasanti dandasa, sabbe bayanti machuno, atangang upamang katwa na haneya na gataye.
Okay, so again, can you just pronounce this one word? So I'll highlight the Roman script, bhayanti, but if anything, putting a slight overemphasis on the h, because if you can't pronounce it like a Sri Lankan or an Indian, at least slightly overemphasize it just to make sure that you aren't saying the wrong sound.
Bhayanti.
That was a bit better. Bhayanti. Bhayanti. Okay, then. And equally, can you say ghataye?
Ghataye. Ghataye.
Once more.
Ghataye.
Okay, that came out much better. It's worth working on. Remember for the native speakers of the language, they're critically important differences. Just as in English, we'd never confuse tanks with thanks. To our English ear, they're just completely different sounds. So ba, bha, and ga, ga are completely different sounds to the native speaker. Okay, thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
And Fenny, we're finally round to you.
I have a go. Sabbe tasanti dandasa sabbe bayanti machuno. Atanam upamam katwana haneya nakatraye.
Okay, right, thank you. Fenny, what you did there, you veered slightly towards the Thai way of doing it in the Ghataye, because just as a native Burmese, they can't do a Gha in Burma, they would say a Ga instead. That's why, for example, they say Dhamma instead of Dhamma. So equally, they'd say Gataye. What the Thais do, the Thais can't do it either. They make it they say Kataye. That's why the Thais say Thamma and so on instead of Dhamma.
Yeah.
So
Gataye.
if you can make it avoid Gataye,
Gataye.
that was much better. That was on. The way we did it was sounded slightly Thai.
I'm sorry. It does tend to come out as a K. I have to be more careful.
So say again?
It does tend to come out as a K, and I have to be more careful. Thank you.
Okay, it does. That's so simply because the sounds of ba, ga are just alien to us as native speakers. We can very easily do a pa and a ka, and that's okay for us as English. And we can do the ba and the ga, but it's the ba ga is the tricky one. That came out beautifully.
Oh, well.
If you can train your throat muscles to do it in that way, Fenny, that would be great. Okay, wonderful. So we can then move on to the Mangala Sutta, unless there's any more on this verse.
James, in the video, you covered off 1 and 2, 10.1 and 10.2 together because they were so similar.
I did. Sorry, thank you for reminding me. I did. So I'd have let that go. I covered numbers 1 and 2 together simply because the verses are identical, with the exception of the second pada of the first line, which is sabbesam jivitam piyam. So sabbesam, genitive plural, also as a dative plural, for everybody or of everybody. Jivitam piyam, life is dear. This piyam, I've done a note on it on the explanatory glossary. It's got quite a charming history, that word. It's the root pri. And we have the noun pri means to take delight in something. It's also the root, same root as our English word friend. In Russian, for example, you will say priyatel is a friend. We have priti in Sanskrit, and then piti in Pali. And piti is specifically used as a word in the various stages of the jhanas, the sense of piti, of joy that arises. But the idea of joyful friendliness comes into the Norse goddess Frigga, and then Freya. So whenever we talk about Friday, you see it's Freya's day. So our Friday is from that same root as the Priya, Priti, Frigga, Freya, Friday. She's the goddess of love and friendship, and I think of matrimonial harmony as well. So whenever you say Friday, think of Sabbesam Jivitam Piyam. Note here also, this is the consonantal, sorry, the pronominal declension. So it's not, so sabba, nominative plural, sabbe, not sabba, sabbe. And this is the genitive dative plural. It ends not in anam, but esam. So of them, desam. Of all, sabbesam. Sabbesam jivitam piyam. Right. So are we ready to move on? Any further comments or Mariano?
This one is a long shot because the meaning is different as well. But pious, Latin. Is it related at all? Or?
That's an interesting point. Pious, I don't actually know. I'm not.
The meaning is not quite the same, but it
Meaning
could
is
be
not quite the same. Yeah. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the pious in Latin, it came to mean holy, and it came into English as pious. But I think among the Romans, am I right in thinking it was specifically following and honoring the religion of your forefathers? So, for example, it was a very bad thing among the Romans to see somebody ceasing to follow the beliefs of his ancestors and switching religion. That's why in the Roman Empire, they did a couple of things that we wouldn't quite approve of in these more liberal times. But that was why the Romans were always, they never interfered with the religions of the people whose lands that they conquered. They actually regarded the religions of the forefathers of all of the peoples that they conquered as of themselves worthy of respect. And so, hello, Senator, I'm changing over to your religion to show you how much I respect the Romans. So, no, that was a terrible thing to do. And that is where you become impious, that an act of impiety was originally not following your forefathers' modes of worship and belief.
Changed in vulgar Italian and Veneto, obviously, where, to be pio would be a feminine quality. The man goes to the bar and the women, go to church. And it would be a bit odd if you were, a pious man.
Yeah, it came to have a slightly pejorative sense in English as well. Pious means just making a show of being over holy, not quite a macho thing to be. In fact, even shortened just to pie. He's a bit pie. It's regarded as a slightly kind of undesirable quality if you're making a show of it. Okay, there we are. Okay, sorry to see you go, Mariano. Bye then. Bye. So we can move on then to our Mangala Sutta. Call it up. Oh, here we are, got it. So Kanti Chasu Vachasata Samana Nancha Dasanam Alena Dhamma Sakacha Etam Mangalamuttamang. Once again, Kantija Suvachasata Samanananja Dasanang Kalena Dhamma Sakacha Etam Mangalamuttamang. I'll just note here on the questions of the Anuswara. Here, Mangalamuttamam is the normal way of doing it. We've got the word ending in an Mangalang, but immediately followed by a vowel. And so this is done in the normal prose way, Mangalamuttamam. The poet could, if he had wanted to, change it to Anuswara and said Mangalang Uttamang, but this follows the normal and also equivalent to Sanskrit way of doing it, Mangalamuttamam, Amu, Mangalamu, Mangalamuttamam. So, Kanti is often translated as patience, but it has a more specific meaning, just ordinary patience, as in waiting patiently in a long queue. It's more the forbearance of patient acceptance of wrongs that are done to you. So it has more of that kind of meaning, not responding with anger to a wrong that is done. Just to,
is it like tolerance? Sort of.
Is it like tolerance? I would say it's more acceptive. Tolerance means allowing. Again, we can set and wide. It has a tolerance has a kind of meaning of tolerating what other people do. Yeah, it can overlap with it. I would say it certainly overlaps with it. You can tolerate what somebody, but specifically with reference to oneself. It's that quality that can cover patience, acceptance, tolerance.
Acceptance.
But it's specifically what is done to oneself. It's not responding with anger. And the normal human way of doing it, if somebody's nasty to you, you immediately have a response back. You either say something or even think something. But with Kanti or Kshanti in Sanskrit, it's just you don't respond with anger. It's not this automatic response. There's the gap of mindfulness, the wise response to it. That is the Kanti. So let me just pull up the iPad. It's from the root ksham. And again, as normal, where in Sanskrit we see a kra, there's almost always become a k in Pali. So in Sanskrit, you can have as a verb, as a straight verb, kshamati, meaning to forbear, to be patient towards something, somebody, or something, or to forgive. Not so much forgive as allow it to happen. Don't respond with anger. We also see in some of the Pali chants, there's the confession of faults. So it makes we having. Oh, sorry. I think I'm getting a bit of trouble with my pen again. I'm getting quite a bit of trouble with my electronic pen. I have. Oh, here we are. It's back. It makes an imperative, kshama kama, and we have in one of our certainly in one of our samatha chants, Kamame Bhante, forgive me, Bhante, it's in the Confession of Faults. That's exercise kanti towards me. So we have the verbal noun in Sanskrit, kshanti. And in Pali, kanti. Kanti. What has happened here is there are several roots that end in an in Sanskrit. Sham is another one, where it's past participle and its verbal noun ending in T. It lengthens the vowel. That's where you get the Sanskrit for peace is shanti. You know, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So it's that same root sham that becomes lengthened to shanti. And ksham is another one, ksham with a short a, but the verbal noun kshanti. And it's that same root that we have as in shamatha, or in Pali samatha. It is that same root. It means calming. So note that, sorry, I've written it wrong. It's shanti with a long a in Sanskrit, kshanti or shanti, but it just shortens in Pali through the regular phonetics of Pali, because Pali doesn't like a long vowel before a consonant cluster, so it becomes kanti. Note also that by way of deviation from the standard form, it's written as a long e there, kanticha. That's simply because the poet needed a long vowel there. In regular prose, it's a short e, kanti. So kanticha sovachasata. Oops. You remember, many of you, from verse 100 of the Karaniya Metta Sutta, we have the adjective suvacho, suvacho chassa mudu anatimani. So suvachasata. So, oops. Oh, yeah. It's from the root vach, meaning speech, cognate with Latin vox, vocal, voice. It's that same root. So vacha.
You're writing.
Sorry, thank you. Sorry. There we are. So vacha, speaking. If you are suvacha, and that's the word that appears as suvacho in nominative singular form in the Karaniya Metta Sutta, that has sometimes been translated as speaking nicely, speaking sweetly. But I resist that interpretation of the word on the grounds that anyone can speak nicely if they put their mind to it. It's not a particularly good, not a particularly strong moral polity. I interpret that as actually meaning su in the meaning of easy. So if you are suvacho, it means you are easy to talk to, in the specific meaning that if somebody tells you what you're doing wrong, you won't say, "Oh, don't you tell me off." You'll kind of gratefully accept wise advice given to you. So easy to speak to in the sense of easily, willingly, and with good grace, accepting admonition or advice from one who spots your fault or who knows better. Sovachasata is, as I mentioned, it's a bit of a pleonasm. It makes an abstract noun kind of a double abstract noun. Yeah, I don't know if it's necessary to go into that in detail here, but you'll see that I've done a note on the formation of the word. And those of you who want to dive into it a bit more can read my detailed note there. It involves Sanskrit formations of abstract nouns and the consonantal declension, in this case ending in a s. If anybody wants me to explain it all in careful detail now, I'm happy to do so. Is there a chorus of demand? I don't spot a chorus of demand. Just treat it as meaning, easy acceptance of admonition is what it means. Jeremy.
Yes, just on your point about acceptance of what others can say and so on. I see the Pali text dictionary again. It refers to its opposite of dovachasa, and then what means of that is fractiousness.
Oh, right. So how dare you tell me what to do, kind of thing. I don't need your advice. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And the other thing, just going back to Kanti, that is one of the parami, isn't it? It's one of the 10.
It is indeed. Yes, yeah.
The sixth one, I think. Yes.
And thank you in particular, Jeremy, for pointing out the Dovachasata. I hadn't actually spotted that point, so I'm pleased to see the Pali text out his dictionary then upholds me on that in interpretation of it. Oops, hang on, oops. Was it in Dovachasata, is it? Here we are, yes. Oops. Getting this problem again. I bring the PTS thing on Zoom and it gives me a part of the page. I don't know. Here we are. Just contaminate.
File size.
I'm sorry, say again, Jeremy?
No, I think it's just the file size, isn't it? It's a very large file, so it takes the time to load.
It takes its time to load. In fact, I loaded it quite a while ago, so then it's been loaded onto my computer for a couple of hours now. It's just however large the file is, whenever I bring this particular PTS dictionary up onto the screen, it often will start off giving me just a quarter of a page. And for example, the Monia-Williams dictionary is an even larger one, but it will, that'll always behaves perfectly. I think it may be just a slight glitch in the system. It goes away in the end. So yes, I hadn't spot this unruliness, indocility, fractiousness. There we are. So Sovachasata, and Domanasa, and Dovachasa and Dovachasata. Again, it's a double abstract. Okay, very good. Samananancha. Let's go back to our Samananancha Dasanam. The literally dasanam is the seeing. I know in modern Hindi you talk about having darshan, for example, of a guru, where you just not necessarily anything's being said, you're just sitting in the same room. You have darshan, literally seeing. But here it just means literally seeing, but just being in their company is woman, keeping that kind of company. is what is meant here, not just the physical seeing. Samana is the standard word used certainly in early Buddhism for anyone who was on the path, engaged in, particularly those who were engaged in living a rigorously holy life. Bhikkhu came to be the specifically Buddhist term, but so bhikkhu samana includes bhikkhu, but samana is not restricted to bhikkhu, and you could have a samana who was not necessarily a Buddhist monk. So samana is literally the original meaning is of personal discipline and strife and putting yourself through some hardship. I'm just going to call up Moni Williams on the point.
Shramana also we use. Shramana.
So what meaning, Dilly, would you apply to that word in
we
modern
use
Sri
the
Lanka?
word samana and also shramana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so what meaning would you apply to those words if you were using them in your native Sinhala?
It's actually referring to the bhikkhus, but in Hinduism, it's Shramana Brahmana also.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So in other words, it's like holy men, people who are living the holy life, but
Yes,
not specifically bhikkhus.
Buddhist monks, yeah.
Okay. In modern Sri Lankan usage, would samana or shramana include Buddhist monks?
Yes,
Okay.
very much.
So it includes them, but is not restricted to them. So would it be right to say that the bhikkhus are, so to speak, a subset of shramana? So you could have a Hindu shramana and a Buddhist shramana who is also a bhikkhu.
Bhikkhu. Buddhist shramana is bhikkhu. Yeah.
Okay, right. So it seems to be pretty much how it was used, even in the suttas as well. I'm just calling up this shram. This is now in the Moni Williams Sanskrit dictionary. And the original meaning is to become weary or tired. And then to make an effort. It's somebody who makes an effort. And specifically then who makes an effort on the spiritual path. So that was the original meaning of shramana, one who goes in for this shram. So shramana then in Pali, samana. And an extension of that word, of course, is the samanera, which is just one who's, samanera is like a novice monk, one who's entered upon the path of Shranti. So this is the meaning that it most commonly has in Buddhism: make an effort, exert oneself, especially in performing acts of austerity. So we've come to 1:05. So we'll wind up there and resume at this point in a week's time. Okay, let me just see. Okay, so thank you all very much and see you all hopefully next week. Okay, thank you then. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, James. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, James.
Okay, goodbye. Bye, Oka. Bye. Bye. Bye.